Hey guys, welcome to the show today. It's Technical Tuesdays, testing Tim's technicals. Not really, Tim, we're just sharing your technicals, but I love to get his point of view on the markets. Now, this is a huge earnings week. We've got Tesla, of course, tonight. We've got Meta Wednesday, and we've got Google Thursday. And I'm going to get into the S&P 500. Been making a lot of clear predictions. The market, we're still waiting on the market. We came down to my support levels. We've come up off of them a little bit. I think the market's waiting for earnings reports from these big tech companies to see how bad or how good things are at. And I'm going to go into the charts on a handful of them. I'm going to give you guys an extremely risky play, a way to play some of the technicals that I've given you, that if I'm right and we get a confirmation of the move that I'm expecting, I'm going to give you an ultra risky version of playing that. And we're going to jump in the chart on that today. Yeah, it's going to be a good show. Thank you all for joining me. I appreciate you guys being here. Tim, you want to say hi to the people?
What's up, everybody? Good to be back. Good to see you again, Josh. I know you're on vacation right now, so you're still looking dapper, even though you're down there with your wife enjoying some sun. But always, you're quite the professional going live even on the vacation.
Not a problem. Yeah, so today I'm going to briefly talk about Tesla. I've been covering it, so I'm not going to get deep into it. We're going to get Tim's reflections on it. I'm going to focus a little bit more on Meta, the S&P 500, and we're going to talk about Bitcoin. So let me just start off today. It's funny because I had a game plan, but I'm going to mix it right up at the start, Tim. I want to talk about Bitcoin. So, because Bitcoin, I mean, I bet you've got some strong thoughts on it. My prediction a week ago and last week regarding Bitcoin, which it's tough to make these predictions, Tim. I told everybody, I said, we're not going down, we're going up. We're going to back test 68 to 70K. And I said, I'm expecting a rejection there. Okay. Now, what we do is we want to be reactive, not proactive. That is the theme of the Stocks with Josh show this week. I'm trying to remind people that the markets will tell us which direction they want to go. We can just calm down, slow down. We don't want to overtrade. We want to let the markets tell us, and then we want to follow. A lot of people, retail traders, sometimes just trying to get those big wins, are trying to jump ahead to maximize the win. And they take the largest risk position. It's somewhat unnecessary because the market's in a particular spot that if it breaks through a lot of the levels that the market's come down to and is sitting on, everybody can just trust if it breaks through right here, it's going much lower. It's not going to be a little drop. And if we begin to pick up steam and pick up volume, in my opinion, we've pulled back enough on a number of big companies that's actually an assurance that we might go back to the top of the range. And so where I see us right now is that the best decision is to just let this week sort of play out and tell us which direction it wants to go. So I'm going to pop open the Bitcoin chart, Tim, and feel free to express your thoughts on Bitcoin right now while I'm doing that.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, my thought is, and we'll take a look at your chart. We can look at mine. I think I prepared last time I was on here. We discussed if history repeats itself, historically, when you come out of the halving event, you get months of sideways action within a range. That range at the moment is somewhat between 60K and 72K. I think there's an outside chance. I think you and I have both discussed the chance of maybe 55, 56,000 being in play. But for anyone who's sitting here asking, when are we going to set a new high for Bitcoin? There's always a chance. This time is different. That happens. But historically, if we see a repeat, we should not expect that for maybe 3, 4, or 5 months.
Okay, let me throw some thoughts out technically on this. And if you want, you can pull up your chart. But again, I want to be very clear because if people are understanding what I'm laying down on this show, there's a ton of money to be made on it. So right here, right there, I told everybody we're not going down. We're going up to test the top of this channel. So I told everybody that 2 days before the halving on the white line last Thursday. So I unequivocally said, we're not going down right now. We're going to go back to the top of this channel. And now we could have a fake out. So right now we've come up to the top of this channel. It operated as rejection. That's literally the exact thing I told you guys Bitcoin would do, and it did it. Now, this is the day after it touched the top of the channel. You can see that it's still struggling with the top of the channel. And I'm just going to zoom in even closer so people can see this. This was the call that was made, that we were going to hit the top of this channel. Now we're sitting here and we've had a day where we've dipped slightly below. We've come back up and we're kissing the top of the channel. Now, I don't know exactly what will happen next, but I'm going to give you what I think is happening. I've made it very clear, Tim, and I'm sharing with you, and then I'm going to give you a chance to react. I have said unequivocally that Bitcoin lacks the current momentum to have the push up that would take us all the way through the next fib level. So my position is that Bitcoin needs more time before we can have that big explosive move. And so personally, I think that we are going to fail at this channel. And I'm going to make two technical points that are probably very different than the types of things that you might cover. So where are the fail points? Well, we could just fail right now and never cross over the top of this channel, or we could come back and test the red line. That's the fib line from the previous all-time high. Whether we have a fake out outside the channel, which is basically a bull trap, and it then breaks back within the channel, that would be a traditional move that could be expected. I ultimately think that we will either fail at the channel or at the all-time high level. That's really right around 68,000. And I think then we're going to come back to the bottom of the channel, which at the moment, puts us somewhere around $55,000. And we need a little bit more time. Largely, I think Tim may or may not agree that for the most part, even though some people might see that as a big down move, I largely see that as a sideways move. But the main point that I wanted to show you guys is, yes, we got to the top of the channel. I'm expecting rejection in this general zone, and I'm expecting it to come back, and I'm expecting some more sideways movement. I also want to point out something that I've seen before, and this is sort of a, years of experience. So I want people to notice. So we touched here on the bottom of the channel, but we didn't touch here and we didn't touch here. And so some people would say, well, Josh, you drew your channel wrong. You need to raise your line. Actually, I don't think I did draw my channel wrong. Oftentimes, these ascending or descending channels get sort of qualified or disqualified by whether or not we get 2 touches on the top and 2 touches on the bottom, and neither of these qualify, which causes me to believe that there is a possibility that we will come all the way down and touch it officially, giving us the second touch before we can move higher. Let me switch back to both of us, Tim. Okay, so I don't know. You and I don't cover any of these technicals before we do this show. So when I'm sharing something, it's probably the first time that you might have seen it. So there's my view. My primary position is the momentum's not there. The technicals show me that we are possibly in a descending channel. Descending channels are bullish. When they eventually break, they break to the upside. And largely to qualify a descending channel or an ascending channel, you want to get 2 solid touches at the top and 2 solid touches at the bottom. I've seen this before where it comes down but doesn't quite touch the bottom, and some people think it's good enough. It's not. It's going to come back and possibly touch the bottom of that channel, which does put us between 55 and 50. Now, this is not LuxAlgo. I know you're going to probably share some thoughts on the LuxAlgo. I'm not going to call this old school technicals. This is Josh's old school technicals based on experience with these structures. What is your take on Bitcoin as far as what I'm saying and where you think it's going?
Yeah, so I think first of all, I'm looking at chat here. It does look like there's some lagging. It's weird because you're coming through very crystal clear on my end. But I see now multiple comments freezing, lagging. Hopefully, that's.
Well, we're not going to be able to do anything about it. There's no reset today because I am not in my regular studio with faster Wi-Fi. So we're gonna be concise. We're gonna cover Bitcoin and Meta, and we'll see if I get some faster Wi-Fi tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, if you want to share my screen, I'm a little bit different than you, but as a whole, I would say macro. You and I are sitting in the same boat. I agree with you. We're lacking the momentum for a new all-time high. I have a different trend, though, than you. I'm going to go a little farther back to the high and to the more recent kind of consolidation here. I have the descending channel kind of starting way back, the resistance starting on March 13th, The support starting, back here early March. As a whole, we have at least 2 touches there. I would say 3 touches and then 2 good touches up top. I agree with you 1,000% about how to address these channels. I think this is the, what we're looking at right here, the descending channel. I think I showed you guys, maybe I didn't show you this one last time. This is what I think I drew on Saturday for the Investing Bros community, that I think there's some outliers. You guys can see here, there's some outliers of up to 73 that's potentially possible, and down here towards 55 that's potentially possible. But as a whole, I'm expecting a large amount of Bitcoin's price action to possibly stay within this yellow box. We'll have to see, and maybe I'll adjust that. But I just expect a lot of sideways motion, and I think there's a chance, and you did it in your analysis as well, I think there's a chance we do see a flash dip that comes down to 55,000, and it wouldn't be all that much different than what we did post-halving way back in 2016. This is the halving event. All these vertical green lines are halving events where we rallied into, a couple of weeks before the halving event, we had a nice rally and then cooled off, just like we've done this halving cycle again. We traded sideways, actually pretty capitulated right here, really, really tight, nice right there. Had one big crash, a wick that came all the way down to 478, and then pretty much jumped back up into a zone and slowly made its way back up, but stayed in a nice zone for multiple months before finally setting a new high a couple of months. If that was in July, we're looking at 4 or 5 months after the actual halving event happened. Actually, is that 6? Is that it might be 5. I think it's 5 months. Anyway, long time before there was new highs. And in fact, we've seen this pretty much every single halving. 2012, I didn't have the boxes here, but we didn't set a new high for that bull market top until 3 months after the halving event. I just showed you 2016. Same with 2020. We didn't set a new high above the pre-halving high of 14,000 until 5 months later in October. So I'm kind of sitting here saying historically, I think we do the same thing. Is that channel look more horizontal? Does that channel look more like it's falling? Either way, if anyone's expecting 75,000, 80,000, 90,000 in the next week or two, history says not so fast.
Well, let me ask you this question. So these are two, I'm going to ask these questions. We're not going to give technical answers. We're going to give answers from the gut. A lot of people have asked me, since I've been talking about the fact that Bitcoin doesn't have the strength to go higher right now, Tim, that it needs more time to build a proper base of momentum, which means that momentum is going to slow until it can pick back up and move higher with force. That's largely been my position. So the very next question that people have asked me is, Josh, okay, are you saying that when we get to your resistance, which I've called really 68 to 70, I've kind of given that range. Now, Tim is right. It could go 71, 72. I can't get into that. It's going to happen so quickly that once we get into that range, what I'll be watching for is a rejection candle. I'm going to look at the structures. I'm going to look at the candles. I'm going to look at the trend lines. I'm going to look at the oscillators. But I'm going to be looking at the candles when we get up there to look for rejection. The question that people have asked me is, okay, would that be a good time for me to sell all my alts? Now, I know that part of you is going to say that's an overreaction, right? But let's put our conservative crypto investing aside. And I want you to think like a guy who's working full-time at Amazon, and he's checking his phone, throughout the day. If we get up to 73 on Bitcoin, and I'm just going to put you in a box and make you answer a yes or no question. We get up to 73 and we see that, and Josh sees that rejection candle, and it flushes hard, right? Wouldn't it make some sense to take some risk off the table with the alts, not knowing how low Bitcoin could go, especially if it went down to 55 or 50? Aren't those alts going to pull back pretty hard?
Yes, I think so. I think that's another topic we discussed last time, but this is the season of Bitcoin dominance probably continuing to go to the upside. So let's put it this way. Right now, if Bitcoin goes up, altcoins go up as well, just maybe not as fast. And if Bitcoin goes down, altcoins will go down a lot faster. So, and
that's the way it's been here. Let me ask you this. Okay, so let me just keep moving ahead. I want to get into meta, and we got a shorter time frame than our previous shows, so I want to get this stuff in. Bitcoin. So what? Now you made an argument, and you showed your charts showing how Bitcoin performed traditionally after the halving. Now, you know, someone made a comment, Tim, on our last show. They're like, are you interviewing Tim for a job? No. What it is, guys, is that you got two technical guys together. So, you know, I'm curious what this technical guy says, and I'm using that as fodder for the show so that you guys could enjoy it. But first and foremost, I'm picking his brain to see what type of thoughts he has so we can iron sharpens iron. So, Tim, if I had to challenge the idea of what you presented, first of all, what you presented is an extremely important historical view. But I can tell you that there's some folks out there that are going to say to me, okay, Josh, but you're not acknowledging, or Tim's not acknowledging, that this time is different. That the market's moving faster. The pullbacks have not been as severe. So if you had to calculate the fact that this is different, the pullbacks have not been as strong, and the market's been moving faster, then maybe it's not going to take 5 months of consolidation before we push higher.
Yeah, so I would say great. I think that's a great devil's advocate argument. But someone in my community actually pointed this out to me after I did my analysis and said historically, we probably shouldn't see a big run up until maybe August at the earliest, but more realistically, September, October area. From a chart perspective, right? If I'm just looking at history, that's what the charts say. But here's a fundamental reason to potentially think that could happen. Remember that some of the bullishness, not only in Bitcoin, but also in stocks, has come with a little bit of price baking in the expectation that we were going to lower interest rates, that we were going to start cutting rates. Well, what's just happened there? They've just come out and said, we're going to have to delay that thought. There's a chance we don't do it even in 2024. But I'm seeing a lot more people predicting the first cut should come when? September. Well, if we do see all the signs, we need to see evidence that they can cut inflation and cut interest rates. We need to see inflation kind of steady out again. And so that's a fundamental reason from a macro perspective to say, hey, it's going to be hard to pick up a lot of bullish momentum when we already priced in thinking we were going to get rate cuts early, and now we have to wait a couple of months. Well, waiting doesn't mean price has to crash. We're just going to potentially trade sideways until we get good or bad information. We're still leaning towards cutting rates rather than raising them. But it's a thing that's, even from a fundamental standpoint, it kind of backs up that thought of like, we could just range here to kind of make that decision. Do we want to? Is the economy going to get a boost? In this case, I think a rate cut, even though historically we've seen market crashes, more often than not, we cut rates because the economy is already crashing. This is going to be probably one of the few times in history that we significantly cut rates. And I think that would be bullish for stock markets, bullish for risk on assets, because it would not be under a season of like crazy fear and economic crashing. It would be more of a season of like, all right, everything's kind of sideways right now, waiting for the next move. All right, we're going to cut rates. That makes it easier to borrow money, makes it easier to invest. That's kind of the pullback argument I would make is to wrap this up, we've been bullish up to this point, and all of a sudden we've kind of used all of the ETF hype and the excitement about the rate cuts. Now that's been postponed. It actually makes sense to trade sideways while we wait for increased information to come out there.
It's an interesting idea. I think that there's a lot of companies that can trade sideways. If I had to characterize where we're at right now, I'm not personally convinced that the strong push up is over. I lean towards sideways makes sense, and the fact is we've had a big push up so far. But I've been pointing out to people that in the S&P 500, that the last time that we had the upward momentum in the market from 2020, mid 2020 to the end of 2021, we had 2 or 3 2% corrections, and we had 5.6 under 6% corrections. Okay. Now, when we've kicked things off this year, running up into where we're at right now, this is the first correction that we've experienced, and it's under 6%, and we came down and we stopped. Now, technically, if we perform in the trend of being bullish, which nobody can argue that the trend has not been bullish. So if we continue that trend, technically, we shouldn't go sideways right now. We should actually have experienced our 6% correction, and then over the next 4 to 5 weeks, go all the way back to the top of the trend, which would put us closer to 5,500. Now, I do not know if that's going to happen, but let's analyze it for a minute, right? And I'm going to analyze that with Tim after everybody we're going to take a small station break. Guys, first of all, if you're seeing this for the very first time, you know, we're hitting it with the technical analysis with great crypto and stocks. And Tim's a guest here, Technical Tuesdays with Tim. Hit that like for me, guys. We've got more viewers than we have likes. I never understand that. If you're here enjoying the show, I hope you just take a minute and hit the like. And also, Tim's got his own show, Investing Bros, and it's worth going over there. I've got a link for Investing Bros in the description of this video, and I'm going to put it in the top pinned comment once I'm done shooting it. I think he deserves some love. Personally, I like what he's laying down. That's why he's here on my show, so that we could share more of Tim's knowledge with everybody. All right, so analyzing the market, right? The momentum is to the upside. A 6% correction is to be expected. We've got big tech earnings this week. Tesla tonight, Meta tomorrow, Google Thursday. Now, we're going to find out whether these guys are still in a growth environment or whether there's unexpected profit losses or expenses here coming up real soon. This is a huge week. Personally, I think the market's dropped that 6% right before these big tech earnings so that they could decide what to do. And I don't know if the market will it came up off the floor, and Tesla could bring it up some more. Meta could bring it up some further. You know, Nvidia's been slowly recovering, and the S&P 500's been slowly recovering. We're either going to build momentum and do exactly what I'm saying, which is right back to the top of the channel, or the floor's going to fall out. And I think it's going to have a lot to do with the earnings. Now, in the case of Tesla, Tim, I've been explaining to people that we've been pricing in the bad news for months and months and months now. And so at this point, the assumption is that things are bad, but if it's not as bad as people were expecting, this could be bullish news, and some of the bearishness could be taken out of the stock. The benefit of the doubt could be given to it, and a floor could be formed, right? And so I'm going to say the opposite is the case for Meta and Google. So they've been given the benefit of the doubt, kind of like Nvidia, like they were crushing it. And so the expectation is that they're doing just as well as they had been, if not better. They're continuing to crush it, and that the AI is proving to be profitable. So Meta's big year was two things: a shift away from the metaverse, a shift towards AI, and they called it the year of efficiency. So the big thing is that now that you've saved all this money, we want to see increased profits. Stocks don't go up when profits decrease. They only go up when profits increase. Now I'm going to lay one more idea out, then we're going to get into the meta chart, and I want you to get into some specifics about the LuxAlgo indicator, because we were chatting about the buys and the sells and which direction the LuxAlgo is telling us things are going right now. But here's one of the things I want everybody to keep in mind, and I've been talking to business owners as I travel and people that are in different fields of employment. I was talking to a guy who works at Amazon just the other day, and he told me that they're in an absolute hiring freeze. They're advertising that they have positions and that they're growing sectors of their business, but you know, I'm characterizing what he said: lies, lies, lies. They're only advertising that they're looking for these positions to suggest to the market that they're growing these areas of their business. He said, nobody's getting hired, and hours are fixed. We also see that Tesla advertised 10% cuts, and I've heard that in reality they were 20% cuts, and then there were insiders that said there were 30% cuts. And so I've been really getting the idea, and it's been concerning me, that big tech is not hiring because right now they are protecting profit margin because, you know, the only reason why they would not be hiring is if they perceive that the economy is pulling back. And so I think that we're getting really close to the data that the market's waiting to see, which could be coming this week, whether or not this economy is actually showing some softness. Now, if this is a bad week of earnings, I'm just going to wrap this up here, then I think that you're going to see that unemployment's going to increase. Those are the two big indicators the Fed watches. He watches inflation going up. He also watches unemployment, right? He wants to see people unemployed because that's a metric that shows that the brakes that he's applied to the economy are slowing things down to bring inflation under control. Typically, the measure of that is when inflation comes down, right? And when unemployment goes up, that's when he goes, okay, it's time for me to stop to pull back on those brakes and let things, keep going a little bit quicker. So let's go into the meta chart, because there's a lot of story to be told there regarding meta. Tim, while I pull that up, you can give some commentary.
Yeah, I think with meta, I'm looking at my chart right here. The first thing that's just going to pop off to anybody watching is the very fat gap in the price action here. We jumped back on the 1st of February. We jumped from down here at just below $400 all the way up to $455. Have not retested it. So that's the first thing I'm watching here from that chart. On the daily chart, it's not going to take all of it, but LuxAlgo actually did print a sell order here a couple of days ago. We have an order block, which is a level of liquidity that could be grabbed up somewhere right there about 458 back to that bottom area. But we have a take profit and a support green cloud coming in as low as 433.
Hey, can you take a step back and just kind of explain some of those things and even zoom in a little closer on them, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start LuxAlgo right here. So we had a big enough bearish day that LuxAlgo's indicators did show a lot of bearish pressure, a lot of selling in the market. It looked like the bears were picking up steam. So ultimately, what you have going on below us is there's a take profit. This is a very simple way to enter trades, and LuxAlgo's been doing a great job with this. Nothing's perfect, but more often than not, this ends up hitting. If you sold during this candle, it's telling you if you're going to enter a short, the most conservative place to take profit would be somewhere around $456. If you wanted to be aggressive, you could come lower to $433.
And so Tim, wouldn't that also be characterized that if you're, let's say you're not shorting it and you're not doing any options and you just want to buy some more meta right now, wouldn't it also be saying that essentially LuxAlgo is saying that this is where it's most likely going to return to and find support in this range?
Yeah, I wouldn't say so much I would use this to buy right here. So if you're saying I want to look for a good level to buy, what I'm seeing here is saying this is a possibility. I would be a bigger component of finding as many things as support as I could. What I like in this range is you could make the argument that this could be a good buy spot. It's definitely a better buy spot to buy down here at 455 than way up here at 495. This order block, what an order block is it's communicating a level of previous price action where there was a lot of exchange of money. And you guys can see here a big green line and a big red line. What that's communicating, the green line is a level of buyers that would be exhausted at this point and a level of sellers that would be exhausted at this point. At this point, more buyers being exhausted than sellers shows that could be a bottom level of support. And this is getting complicated a little bit. This isn't the most basic version, but it would communicate to me this is a short-term stopping point, but maybe not a long-term stopping point. It probably is going to come down to this level and then reassess what it wants to do. What I like about the green cloud, you guys can see here, there are occasions where price action gets slightly above, like back here, but it quickly comes back in. And more often than not, you'll find price action reject on the red and bounce off the green. Sometimes it kind of rides it all the way up. But in this case, as we're moving horizontally, I'm a bigger fan right now of, even if I didn't know about this gap, of saying, well, there's a weak-ish order block right here, but I have my green support cloud with the more aggressive take profit down at 434. I think 434 is a better and probably more realistic buying spot than this one here at 458. Even if the price action does something like this, we might get a small bounce right here and bounce back up. But I'm not going to be surprised to see that price actually come down to this level. And then, of course, we're talking about the gap. So in that range, I'm kind of sitting here thinking, Josh, we might see something like this and then a bounce and a come to fill up this entire gap. And so in this case, you might even want to take a look at a longer time frame. Let's go 2-day here, kind of doubling that up, which there's nothing that's going to come in from LuxAlgo necessarily. So not going to find any confluence there. But just the fact that we have that gap, I would say is enough for me, Josh, to say I might not even necessarily want to buy right here at 434, maybe add and DCA a little, but I really am looking at that gap and saying I think that's doable to buy in down there. And then it becomes the question, ultimately, just because you fill the gap doesn't mean you reject right where the bottom of the gap is. We do have some decent size order blocks a lot lower. And as you said, there might be some numbers coming out that are not going to look as favorable for Meta. Maybe they've been pumping some details that get exposed, in which case, we've been running here with no major correction. Let me turn off LuxAlgo. We've been running here with not really any, don't mean to draw there, major correction in a long while. That would
okay. Let me jump in,
numbers.
Tim. Let me jump in here. So So what I wanted to do is I wanted to have people have a little bit of an introduction to LuxAlgo and what is it saying. At the moment, it's actually giving a sell signal, right, based on that last candle, and it's pointing down to some areas where it could find support. Now, the truth is that Meta's in an extremely bullish run, and I'm going to go into sort of a historic view of it that is actually based on some calls, Tim. So do you see that yellow dot there?
Yes.
So this is a call that I made back on this show, I think right before earnings. Give me 1 minute. My mouse has actually been hijacked by my iPad. Okay, now it's back. These devices are smart. Okay, so right before earnings last time, right here, I told everybody when we broke over and into this line, right here where this dot was yellow, I said, guys, if we get above this line and we close, we're going to the top of the channel. I said, count Meta a $500 stock. And I want people to understand that this is happening, and it's happened to a lot of the big tech plays where we've had this top resistance line that once we've come broken above this area of resistance, we've made it to the top of the channel. And that's what happened with Meta. Now, let's take a moment and take a step back. This is up 530%. And so I'm going to basically tell people my view is that, first of all, we've pulled back. We were recently up to $530, and today we've had a high of $498. So we've had a pretty big pullback. Personally, I think that if their earnings are good, we're going to see a retest of the top of this channel and possibly even some form of a blow off top. As I said, if the market confirms bullish, and we have 4 more weeks of the market going up, the high goal, and this is such a clear point, guys. First of all, I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, you might say, but this was 100% accurately called on this day that Meta would be a $500 stock. And I'm going to make another prediction today, and it's really hopefully for the benefit of those who are listening. At the moment, if the market confirms bullish, which I think that we will know by the end of this week based on the earnings that we're getting this week, and if we begin to see, as I'm saying, we might see, if this was just a 6% correction, if we see 4 more weeks of an upside, then that means that we're going to touch this channel one more time. Now, I don't know where it's going to touch. 540, 557 is the ultimate high in my mind for Meta. Now, I am not saying it's going to get there. I'm saying that if we do begin to go back up and the S&P 500 goes up to 5,500, you're going to see Meta work within this zone over the next 4 to 5 weeks, okay? But I'm going to tell you guys that this is potentially the max for Meta right now, which is 557. This has gone up 530%. If it got up to 557, we will have gone up 555%. And what I would be warning people is that it's a very similar move that had occurred between here and here over the course of a longer period of time. It's a very large move. And after that, we had a pretty significant downturn before being able to continue and climb higher. Now, some people will say, but Josh, what about AI? Guys, AI is what gave you that rocket ship, okay? It got priced in advance, and now it's going to be measured by the economy and how successful they are with making profits through AI. The benefit of the doubt has been put in. Now performance is going to become a bigger issue. And personally, I believe that this is going to be the top potential move of Meta. I think that earnings might be good, and if they are, we're going to push up here. But ultimately, in this zone is where we're going to ultimately end between 530 and 560. and if we're lucky, 560, and then we're going to see an absolute trend down, and 446, I think we'll see a break, a secondary break like we had right here. I think we'll see a break of our ascending support line, and I think at bare minimum we'll come back to 446. And so really at this point, I'm calling a bullish 4-week end to Meta's monumental 550 run with a consolidation and a digestion all the way back to 446. And so if you're a long-term holder of Meta, this is in this zone is where you would consider hedging the shares that you want to hold for years and years and years with some in-the-money leap puts that you eventually would take profit on at around 446. Guys, I cannot give you my predictions any more direct and clear than that. We're going to go to Tim's reaction. Tim, what's your reaction on all of that?
Yeah, I think that's a good looking chart. And I was looking at some other things while you were doing that. This isn't the only indicator. I'm seeing a lot of mixed things on Meta, but one of the indicators that I like to use that's an oscillator, Stochastics RSI. I'm actually very surprised at what I'm seeing on Stochastics RSI. It's low. It's very, very low on pretty much every timeline. I mean, the weekly chart, we're sitting down at 5. And just so people know about Stochastics RSI, nothing's perfect, but effectively it's another simple indicator. You can, more often than not, when you get overextended below 30, you can buy and feel pretty good about it. And when it gets over 70, you can sell and feel pretty good about it. It's weird that everything else on my timeline, everything else on my screen is saying that Meta's overextended right now, but that Stochastics RSI very overextended to the downside. So that could be even kind of play into what you're kind of addressing there. We also, I kind of had a tracking almost like a megaphone pattern with Meta. We didn't touch that resistance level. I mean, we have several touches dating back to January of 2018. You guys can see several of them. We fell short this time. So could we see what you're talking about and a move further to the upside and maybe get closer to that yellow line? Possibly. I'll tell you this. I think Meta's one that because of how high it is right now and the fact that there is potential little juice left in it, I don't know if I'm really necessarily itching to short this one at the moment, but I don't know if I'm looking to enter a brand new long. I think this is one that's like, if you're into a long already, you kind of want to stay, but
yeah, let me help people with that concept, because what I'm saying is that we've gone up. We have the potential. We're up 530% right now. Yeah. I'm saying if the earnings are good, we could get all the way up to 550%, and we can actually get up to back to 530, between 530 and 560. But here's what then I'm warning that we will have gotten extremely frothy, and that the risk to reward favors a downturn. But here's the thing. Don't get into those puts early. As Soccer USA said, Meta puts are pretty expensive for a good reason. The IV is high. You need to let the market, if it's going to take the Meta price back up to where I'm saying, then that's the soonest that you would be potentially looking at a put, because right now they're going to be more expensive. The IV is actually pretty high, and you might start with some, in the money, out of the money. That's going to be based on different people's risk position. Sorry, guys. All right. So I want us to get into Ethereum, because people have been asking me to cover Ethereum quite a bit, Tim. I'm going to let you lead off there. And I want us to also explain to people, because people have been asking me in the comment section where to get the LuxAlgo and really what is it exactly? What are you getting? Could you kind of explain that? I'm going to let you go into your chart and kind of give some predictions for Ethereum right now. And do it this way, Tim. You give whatever thought you want. But let's say I'm right that Bitcoin is going to hit a wall at 71,000, and it's going to then potentially come back and test below 58. I'm curious, if we got to 55 on Bitcoin, where might that put us for Ethereum? That'd be a great question for you to flesh out.
Oh, good question. I mean, I could if I had time to sit and do some mathematics based off of what I'm seeing on the Ethereum over Bitcoin chart, and then how much market cap would come out of Bitcoin. So how much market cap would come out of Ethereum. That's a complicated answer that I couldn't give on this show. But if I sat down and did some math, I could give an answer. What I can tell you right now is Ethereum's in a more aggressive descending channel than Bitcoin was. Remember, we just showed you guys the Bitcoin potential descending channel. Let me actually wrong screen, very slightly downward. Ethereum's more aggressive here. And we, again, have 2 touches right there. We have 3 touches now for Ethereum. So Ethereum in the shorter term, again, looking like we potentially could make a push back up towards 3,400 and touch the yellow falling level of resistance again. But in this time period, it looks like Ethereum is dropping. Remember earlier I said that the Bitcoin dominance chart more than likely is going to the upside. Well, that's if Bitcoin more than likely goes sideways as a whole and Ethereum's going down and altcoins are going down, that's why the Bitcoin dominance chart goes to the upside. I did just give a price prediction on Ethereum. I just made a video yesterday for the Investing Bros community, so go check it out. I'll give you the answer, but go find out how I got there. I think that Ethereum can hit $20,000 by the end of 2025, Josh. So that is my long-term price prediction. Short-term wise, let me go ahead and pull up LuxAlgo and see what is happening here. On the daily chart, we have actually come down. This is a good example of what we addressed earlier, a very basic feature of LuxAlgo with that sell order. This came in back on April 12th, my brother's birthday. Happy birthday, my brother. And then, we had that more conservative take profit down here towards 29.72. We wicked slightly below it. We actually touched the green support cloud right here. But as a whole, I'm more of a conservative trader. I would have put my take profit on a short at 29.61. What I'm not seeing yet, even though price is going to the upside, I'm not seeing a buy order come in just yet, right? I'm sure I'd see one if I went to the lower time frame. But on the daily chart, even though we're moving to the upside, this isn't necessarily a very bullish chart just yet. I'm not getting bullish confirmation like I've gotten in the past, and I got the bearish confirmation right here. So I'm not necessarily looking to enter a long-term long on Ethereum at the moment. That could change any day now. And again, I would not be surprised to see Ethereum make its way back up here to the yellow line. And we have another feature called Smart Trail Concept, which is a resistance level, and it's red. When it's blue, it's a support. We have that one kind of giving us confirmation of that area. But for right now, I'm going to continue to wait on the daily chart if I'm making longer term trades. On the shorter time frame, I go 4-hour chart. All right. So here a couple of candles ago, and I say that it means yesterday, or actually 3 days ago, because I'm a 4-hour, we got a buy order. We broke through our Smart Trail Concept. Guess where our take profits coming in at? Conservatively, 3,339. Aggressively up here, and I'm getting off frame, aggressively 3,500. So that kind of goes into that confluence I just talked about. We have a red cloud of resistance. We have an aggressive take profit and a trailing resistance level. That all tells me we could see 3,500 get hit.
So Tim, if we saw, so I just want to, sometimes I want to break things down so they're like so simple. If we get a push up, this radical push up, which I'm saying I think will be rejected because momentum isn't there, not enough. It's like a coil that has to be slowly wound so that it can get maximum spring. We're not ready for maximum spring. We just had maximum spring. Now we're back into tightening the coil. But right now, if we get that test up to 71, 72, 70, it would seem reasonable to you that we'd hit the top of your yellow channel there on Ethereum, and that we would get, you go back to that Ethereum, and then I think it was right around, what's that price?
3,500.
All right. So now I'm not telling anybody what to buy, sell, or hold. That's not what I'm doing. I'm doing my trading. You do your trading. But I am attempting to share scenarios that people can understand, which means that if my premise is right, that Bitcoin needs more time to build momentum, if we do get this push up to 70,000, 71, Ethereum gets up to 3,500, I'm saying that, and it fails there, which I believe it would, but I don't know. I don't have Nancy's crystal ball. I keep calling her saying, Nancy, send it over my way, share with the constituents, but she won't. I'm saying that Ethereum could come all the way back below 3,000, and that would be an ideal time to maybe take some profits if you were inclined to do so. But, you do you. All right, now I'm getting the number one request that I see, and then I'm going to wrap this up, but I'm going to have you again. Tim, I want you to share the LuxAlgo on MicroStrategy. So I'm getting a lot of requests for MicroStrategy. Somebody asked earlier why I was talking about Meta. Guys, earnings for Meta are Wednesday. Google's earnings are Thursday. Tesla's earnings are tonight. These are going to rock crypto. Guys, this NASDAQ and crypto have been moving together. These are three big tech companies, and the macro environment is going to tell us a lot. How these performed, I know nobody wants to hear it. It's going to influence crypto because, and you know what? And if they performed well and we get this little boost up this week, that's what's going to drive us into a high level of resistance on a lot of these plays that have been running for a long time. That's kind of what I'm predicting. That's why we're talking about Meta, Bitcoin, and Ethereum back to back. Hey, Crux of Crypto. Hey, man, it's good to see you here today. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate all of you guys being here. Thank you always for joining the show. SoundHound, I see somebody asking me about SoundHound, and I like SoundHound. I love it at $2.50. But I like it. It came down from $10 all the way down to its current range, and it's definitely a place where I'm watching and nibbling. However, I know how these small cap stocks in a bearish environment can perform. They can get just absolutely mauled by the bear. We're talking, you know, the bear comes out of the woods, bites it, shakes it, bites it, stomps it. So, you know, the question I'm asking myself is, it's come down from $10 to $2.50. Is the mauling over, or you know, to $3? So I'm being very patient. But I'll tell you that I do when Nvidia begins to kill it again, and when things begin to, when they've digested enough, and the market begins to tell us, hey, it's time to pump. When I'm getting bullish on Nvidia again, it's when I'm also going to get bullish on Sound. Now, I do believe that Nvidia is moving back towards the top of its descending channel, but I don't know that that's going to translate in a buy right now for Sound. Okay, MicroStrategies, that's the one you guys asked me for. I'm just going to give you guys some quick technicals on that, and then I'll go to you, Tim. Okay, guys. First of all, these technicals, which I've given you in the past, man, write these down on your charts. They have worked. I drew this line in the sand at 1715. Right here, I told you guys that if we got this breakout above the middle of this channel, that we would get up to 2050. We got right up under 2050, proved to be a very closely correct technical. The actual high was 1989. So I know that some of you might say, well, not good enough, Josh, but we got pretty darn high right there. We got our rejection candle. This was an indecision candle. We fell back into our channel. We made another attempt at a breakout, and I told you guys on this day, I said, if we can close, we have to close back above 1715 and open back above 1750. Now, I'm looking at the 2-day chart. I told you that's what we have to do if we're going to go up now. Well, it didn't. It actually went down, put us back in our channel. Now, we've come pretty low. We have not come to the bottom of this channel yet. And right now, the area that we're dealing with is this roughly this 1400. We're dealing with resistance at 1398. And I'm going to keep it as simple as I can. And open and close above 1398 will push us largely, in my view, not to the top of this descending channel, but I think it'll actually push us all the way back up to 1715. That's my prediction. If this turns out to be a rejection zone, we know that it's a rejection zone going through this week. If Bitcoin were to fail here and we lost some of the levels I told you about, then we're going to be coming to the bottom of this channel. I see support in two places, 1090 and at the bottom of this channel, which we'd have to wait and see where that price actually is. So, Tim, what are your thoughts on MicroStrategies?
Beautiful stuff. You're sitting there. I'm gonna agree with you, and I'm gonna show you guys using LuxAlgo why what Josh just said is very solid.
And you know, I want to share with these guys, Tim. I do use LuxAlgo. I do all my own technicals first, and then I turn on LuxAlgo, and I love to see the confluence. I'm bringing LuxAlgo to you guys because until you can really learn the technicals, and we're on a journey together. I'm on a journey to teach you guys. Some of you guys are on a journey to learn. I was talking to a guy the other day. He's like, I call myself Chart Goat in the Discord, and someone's like, Josh, I'm Chart Goat Junior, man. I'm coming up. And I love it. I want to see you guys come up. While you're on that journey, LuxAlgo could be a tool that as you're drawing your technicals, you can turn on the LuxAlgo and go, okay, I've got this right. I've got this where it needs to be. To me, it's actually a pretty good indicator. I like discovering it. And when I want to be lazy and I want to get a quick understanding of what might be happening, I go to the LuxAlgo. All right, Tim, tell me what you see in MicroStrategies.
Yeah, I'll be brief here. I've talked about the take profit suggestions of sell orders. We hit the take profit here on the daily pretty beautifully. In fact, I'm going to show you guys. We're going to go down some of the charts, and then I'm going to show you my target for a bounce. But 12-hour, we hit it just perfectly. On the daily, the 12-hour, 8-hour, 6-hour, I think it's going to be there as well. Yep. And then we come down to the 4-hour, and the 4-hour now under a buy signal, giving us an order block, a smart trail concept, and take profit coming in here around 1550. Right. So as we bounce back up, that's a great target to keep an eye on for potential rejection. I come back up to the daily chart, and I'm going to see some confluence where I haven't gotten a buy order, but this is where our stop loss is. And we have the smart trail concept kind of making its way down. 1550 looking very, very good for a bounce back up. But now we head out to the weekly chart, because on Josh's chart, he showed you where it could get back up to the upside, and he showed you potential downward action. Take a look at this. Last week, we printed a sell on the weekly chart, meaning this could take months to play out before we see this target get hit. But where's its target coming in? That smart trail and the take profit conservative level, pretty much right there around 1,000, maybe a little above it, but close to 1,000. It could drop lower towards 800, but for this case, I'm going to go ahead and say conservatively, I want to see what price does. It looks like 1,000 could be back in play, and I'd want to see what we're looking at when we get back to that level. But that's a lot of confluence with what Josh was just looking at there on his little channel he had going down. It has a lot of those same levels kind of baked into it. Maybe not to the dollar, but same ranges.
That's really cool. Thank you, Tim, for sharing that. Actually, I really enjoy going through this with you. It's a lot of fun. So someone asked me about the miners, and I am going to, actually real quick, someone says that you look like my son. Makes me feel a little bit old, guys, when you say these types of things. Tim actually does have a very manly beard like my son Judah does. But nope, Tim is not my son. I will be bringing my son on more. He is a crypto. He's great at crypto. But I want to talk about the miners. So, guys, here's the story on the miners. The miners have really not come up off the floor. I had talked about the miners last year, and to be honest with you, the miners are looking pretty bearish to me, which, just to be clear, if we get this push up on Bitcoin, the miners are going to make a new lower high. And then they're going to make a new lower low. And that low is going to absolutely be a massacre. The miners are having more trouble right now than they've ever had before. And some of these miners are absolutely going to die. They're going to get bought out by competition. And the fact is that Wall Street turned their back quickly on the miners. I had made a prediction last year well before where we're at today. And I said, guys, after the halving, Mara will hit a high of right around $36. Now, little did I know that the whole spot ETF for Bitcoin would come about, and everything that would normally have happened after the halving happened before the halving. Well, we got to that predictive price that I gave on Mara, and I had been predicting over a year ago that would be the top of Mara in this crypto cycle. Now, I don't know that for a fact, and I don't want you guys to jump ahead and maybe misunderstand what I'm saying. Here's what I'm telling you. If the miners are not showing strength, they're not. There's going to be dilution. They're going to have to do a massive capital raise. They've sold a lot of their Bitcoin early. They're in financial trouble. There's going to be miner consolidation, which means some are going to be bought out by other miners. There's going to be a huge mix-up in the miners. Remember, we're going to be reactive, not proactive. The miners are the scariest place to attempt to guess what's going to happen. Right now, the fact that Bitcoin is near 70K and the miners are not up at 30, that Riot and Mara are not up at 30, tells you everything you need to know. So one of the big themes that I was going to make for today's video, I'm going to make it for tomorrow's video, is to accept what the market tells us. If you're bearish on Tesla, but the market gives us a strong reversal today, then, let go of being bearish. If you're bullish on Meta, but it falls apart, let go of being bullish. We're at a very strong decision point, and I believe that this week is going to tell a big story. I think, was there anything else I was going to have you cover, Tim?
I don't know. I know I'll be back on again, of course, next week. I probably do need to go.
Okay, yeah,
it's been awesome being here. I actually, my live show, the Investing Bros live show, is live right now. So my business partner, he's running it. I got to jump over there. So if you guys want to see more of me, I'm gonna be live
Perfect.
here, you know, on a different channel.
Okay, let me just restate what Tim said. He is going to get off this channel, and on his channel called Investing Bros, he's going to go live. So I want you guys to we're going to close up here today. I want you guys to check out that LuxAlgo indicator. I'm going to leave it for those. We're going to continue to teach on that on Technical Tuesdays. We're going to get in more in depth, but I want you to jump over, subscribe to Tim's page, and join him for more deep dives into crypto and whatever you guys got on today. Tim, thank you for being a guest. Appreciate all of you guys. Don't neglect that subscribe so you keep getting this type of content. Peace and blessings, my friends. Take care.